The prime suspect behind the Pentagon leaks has been arrested by the FBI, and it looks like he's a very, very young member of the military, and he is a right-wing activist. So he probably derived his worldview from Fox News and so-called new right alternative media. The suspect is the 21-year-old Jack Teixeira. He worked on a military base in Massachusetts. And he joined the Air National Guard in 2019. And officials said he was a member of the 102nd Intelligence Wing. That means he's fresh out of training, and he must have been taught that secrecy is very, very important, and any leaks will be punished severely. And so he was also too young to have regular access to all of the stuff that he leaked. Possibly safety measures on that base were not followed according to protocol, and possibly he employed hacking techniques to expand his access to documents. Now, we've seen that thing before, but he's too young to have experienced the Snowden scandal or the Wikileaks scandal back in the day. Now, with Wikileaks, the prime source was Bradley Manning, a young soldier back then, who had access to intelligence. And the accusation is that Wikileaks had Julian Assange taught him how to expand the access. And so Bradley Manning was more left-wing, and his circle of friends was more left-wing, and he was probably inspired by the old Daniel Ellsberg leaks and that sort of thing. So you see kind of this ideological motivation to leak secrets in order to change the world. And now we have a 21-year-old right-winger, Jack Teixeira, and he also tried to change the world or feel better about himself and that sort of thing. So usually these leaks do not really change much, and these leaks destroy the life of the leaker. A couple of years ago, there was a case of Reality Winner who copied secret materials, and nobody really remembers her or what she leaked. So, stuff that was leaked was apparently from the operations center of the CIA and stuff from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Pentagon. So how did he get access to that? We will probably find out fairly soon. So this suspect liked guns, and he liked fast cars, and he was a stereotypical right-wing activist, it seems. And he had a chat room on Discord, and the members of this chat room were a bunch of gamers, and they kind of became friends. And supposedly, Teixeira, using the nickname, the handle OG, Teixeira kind of played the father figure, and he created the impression that he was far older than he actually was. So others in the chat room were younger than him, some were older than him, but he was like the uncle. He was like the father figure. And so he started posting these documents. He typed them in, left some things out, and that took a while for him to do every day. And at some point, he got frustrated because the members of the chat room were not that interested in those matters. So he claimed he had access to a secure facility where he could steal those bits of information, steal those documents. And for months, this stuff was posted there, and for some naive reason, OG believed that these documents would not spread on the web. He was really, really surprised that this happened, which is very, very odd. So the Washington Post supposedly has a video of him at a gun range, and he's firing a rifle. He's making some racist comments, they said, some anti-Semitic comments. And people from the chat room, they posted jokes about Jews and the Holocaust and all that stuff. So that's fairly common in those circles. People are, blowing off steam, and they get their worldview from certain types of media. Now, some people on Fox News, some people in alternative media, they're very pro-Russia. They think Russia is conservative, even though Russia is led by former KGB people. It's a very, very basic old-school empire over there. And beginning in 2008, and I made a video about that as well, beginning in 2008, alternative media was taken over piece by piece by the Russians and the Republicans. They tried to dominate that field. And so this development is too far back for Teixeira to have experienced this himself. And so he grew up with this sort of manipulative kind of media. And some Republicans, they positioned themselves against helping Ukraine, against supporting Ukraine. And for the most part, this is just to placate the voters, because a large section of the voters, they're not sure what to make of this Ukraine war. And so you have to be careful about the game that's being played here. It's also very common that Western circles will deceive the Russians about their intentions. And so a lot of people, a lot of Republicans who claim to be pro-Russia, they may not actually be pro-Russia. Now, possibly OG, aka Teixeira, he may have tried to influence the war. That is very possible. He created a sub-channel, a sub-chat group called Bear versus Pig. So Russia is the bear and Ukraine supposedly is the pig. Now, Joe Biden, the Democrats, they play the role of staunch supporter of Ukraine. That's very, very much understood. And media, right-wing media, has created the impression that the United States ruling class is divided into two blocks, a left-wing bloc and a right-wing bloc, and they wanted to truly destroy each other and that sort of thing. Possibly Teixeira believed that as well. So 25 people are supposedly or were supposedly members of this chat group. Some members were from Europe, Asia, South America, even some Russians and Ukrainians were there, according to one of the people in that chat group. So this was a teenager, and they looked at this OG guy as if he was an uncle or a father figure. So OG tried to impress everybody with his secret documents, but these gamers, these young people, mostly in the chat room, they didn't really know what to make of it. And OG grew frustrated, and he stopped transcribing this material. Instead, he posted pictures of it. And so OG criticized the government, and he was critical about the Waco incident, the Ruby Ridge incident. Now, these incidents are very, very old, and the only people who still remember this or still care about this are right-wingers, conventional conspiracy activists, and that sort of thing. And so for months, these documents were on the server. And eventually, inevitably, this stuff spread, and OG became really, really scared. So he didn't know what to make out of it. He told everybody in the chat room to disengage and to destroy information relating to him, which is basically another crime. He's interfering in investigation if that turns out to be true. He should have known, would have known what the consequences are. He didn't run, apparently. He didn't escape. He was just hanging out at his house. He was under surveillance for a while. And then the arrest was made. So government apparently didn't want to create a standoff or shooting or that sort of thing. So very professional arrest, it would appear. And so the group was very sad about him leaving. They felt like they lost their best friend or they lost a family member. And so now, of course, the fallout is being managed. It's not as bad as some people say it is. So these intelligence summaries that were being stolen, they do not reveal the sources and methods. And even though some information leaks out, the Russians can't change overnight their plans for Ukraine, their tactics, and their supply lines and that sort of thing. And so you have to be very, very skeptical about any big leak. So Snowden could have been a classic spy, a classic Russian agent. That is entirely possible. And the Wikileaks saga had a very interesting background, especially Julian Assange himself. He was a young hacker, he was a young activist in Australia back in the day, and he attacked some United States facilities connected to security. And usually he would have gotten 10 years prison, but it took years for him to get a sentence, and then it was a really, really, really mild sentence. He was sentenced to pay some money. And in between his arrest and this mild sentence, he worked for the Australian police. Details are very, very secret. A lot of files have been redacted. It was just publicly claimed he was hunting pedos on the web. Maybe he was actually a spook, a snitch among hacker circles. And then he traveled the world, moved along hacker circles. So it's really, really interesting what actually transpired back then. And I think it was the end of 2007 when WikiLeaks was formed. They actually gave a presentation, meaning Julian Assange and his German partner, Daniel Berg. They gave a presentation at one of the biggest hacker conferences in the world in Berlin, the Chaos Communication Congress. So it would have been accessible information who actually runs WikiLeaks. But for the next couple of years, the WikiLeaks website didn't reveal who was running WikiLeaks, and then they leaked some military databases about equipment for, I think it was Iraq. And so actually that's when arrests needed to happen, but they didn't occur. Even the US military put out some reports saying we could probably find out who these guys were if we, if we put enough effort into it. But all it needed was a few phone calls among hacker circles and among informants in hacker circles, and the identities would have been known. It's a very strange case, a lot of background information, so it's always more than just what you see. So we will follow this case, of course, and see what this young guy from Massachusetts was really intending, if he was just trying to impress his friends, or if he had any kind of political motivation, if he was paid by anybody, or he wanted to help the Russians. Now, this could, of course, mean it could mean he gets charged with actual treason and all these super intense charges that could put him in prison for decades.